My next touches were to improve upon the mouth. I didn't like how subtle the red was, so I added more red, swooped it in, made the black hole for the throat, since the mouth is the focal point of the mask. I also added a black line around it, just for extra definition. And then I also went ahead and added some gray mixed with green and made some really nasty gum lines. So here's the spot. I have gray. It's just a lot of black with a tiny touch of that gray, and then you can see the dark green and the red, and I just kind of picked up the little colors in patches on my paintbrush. I didn't mix them all together because then it would have been a completely different color. But I just picked up little bits and I made some pretty gross gum line. And I think that adds just a little touch. Now, as you can look on my sketch, I wanted to do cracks in the mask, but because I've already over-exaggerated so much, I feel like the cracks are just going to really crowd it. Just FYI real quick, I added another layer of white over the gaunt marks in the cheeks, so now it looks a little more natural. So instead of the cracks, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do blood splatter. And how I'm going to do that is simply dip a paintbrush into some blood red paint and then kind of flick it. So this is really fun. It's also really messy. So I would definitely recommend newspaper, paper towel, something so that you're not going to get it essentially all over your floor or your clothing. So I'm going to put that there. I'm going to grab a very large flat brush. Sorry about that. So here's my brush. It's nice and flat. You want to have something that's going to be able to fan out, because whenever you flick it, you want it to get splatters and not just like, you know, big globs. So I have some blood red sitting here. I'm going to get the brush as generously coated as I can. I need to get a little bit more red. And then we get to the fun part. So, get a lot, nice, generous helping of red. I'm going to push this mask back a little bit. So what I'm basically going to do is focus around the mouth and the cheeks and the jaw. I don't want to get too much around the eyes because I don't want the focal point to be the eyes, because it'll be a screen and you might probably will be able to see me through it. So, got my generous dollop of red, and I'm not going to use gloves. You can use gloves if you want. And then I'm just going to flick it. And it just went over my foot, which is like 3 feet away. So obviously this is something you want to do with a lot of protective paper towel. So I want a lot of blood down on the jaw. So let me get that more into frame for you guys. I'm going to flick it very close and make sure I have a lot of paint. I'm going to try to get it in different angles, and if I get some on the teeth, on the mouth, I feel like it'll be just a little bit of an added touch. So I'm just going to flick that everywhere. My fingers are getting very painty. And now I can do the other side. Get my red and flick. Now this really is getting all over my floor despite the newspaper. So I think next time I will have some extra newspaper. You might want to put some newspaper up as a shield, because this really does kind of get everywhere. I want to get a little bit more on the teeth. Oops, well, my motto is you can't mess up art. So as you can see, I got a big glob right there where the paintbrush actually hit. Personally, I don't much care. Like I said, this was just something fun I wanted to do. And I want it to kind of look like maybe the face was eating something. Now that I am not happy with. So I'm going to smear that and probably cover it up with some white paint. Now since I have all this all over my fingers, I feel like I probably shouldn't waste it. And I'm just going to take the cheek up here and just slide it on down. So I feel like that adds a nice little touch. Gonna get my fingers cleaned up. I'm gonna fix my little spot that I made a boo-boo in. And then the next steps will be to add... Oh, I still got paint on my finger. I don't want to get it on the camera. Sorry. The next steps will be to get the eyes and nose pieces hot glued with the pantyhose. And then we're finally going to work on the elastic. So this is what we got overall. As you can see, maybe I got some on my floor, so I'm going to have to clean that up. I got a lot on my ankle and foot, actually, which I'm not really sure. I got some on the bag. Actually, there's not any on the carpet, which is really nice. So I'm going to go clean that up and get my hot glue gun back out, and we'll do the eyes and the nose piece. So I got my mess cleaned up. My ankles are clean again. So our next step then is to start getting the eye bits ready. So I got out my knee high, and what I'm going to do is cut it in half. I'm gonna make sure it's cut with the seam, not across it. Oh, my camera tilted. So this piece should be big enough for the eyes. I want to have just one layer. I want to stretch it as far as I can so that it still looks black, but I can see through it. So what we're going to do is flip the mask over and, oops. I never would have imagined that videotaping with just one hand would have been so hard. Alright, so I'm just going to set that on my ankle, and I'm going to measure about how much. I'm going to make it a little bit longer. I can cut off the excess after I glue. So I got my glue gun ready, and I'm basically just going to outline this whole area, hopefully get a little bit in there, because I don't want to have like a big sheet and then have this big sheet on my nose where it's going to stretch this even more. So I'm going to try to get it in between the nose as far over as I can, and then I'm also going to do the nose holes. So I'm going to grab my glue gun, and I'm going to start over here. I'm just going to add a big thing of hot glue. And because the pantyhose are so thin, it's probably going to hurt putting it on. Ouch. Yes, that is hot. let's see. Ew. 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 Yeah. Maybe you could use oven mitts and not burn yourself to all hell like I just did. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to stretch it, and I'm going to add more hot glue around this whole area. So I have that little bit. I'm going to add hot glue up here, down in between the nose, and then down around the eye. And that stuff is steaming, and I am afraid so badly to touch it. My thumb still burns. So I'm going to pull this over and hopefully use the scissors instead to get that attached. Okay, so there's that half, and it's a little crooked, so what I might do is actually twist it maybe, and try to do another over here. So, we're gonna start in the middle again, and get it around the eye. I'm running out of glue. Grab another glue stick real quick. There we go. Sorry, didn't realize you guys were out of frame for a minute. Ow. Yeah, I would definitely recommend using something besides your fingers to push this onto the hot glue. I'm really not having a good time getting it on my fingers. Okay, so I only have this little bit left, and I'm going to add the rest of the hot glue around the eye. Nice big generous dollop to hold it. And I'm going to stretch it. And then I'm going to use the scissors again to stretch it down and up and out. Now, any extra little bits that seem like they're sticking up, I'm going to go back and hot glue those problem areas individually, and it should end up looking something like that. I'm not sure I'm digging the fact that where I twisted it does that, so I'm probably just going to cut those little bits off or try to glue them down. So that's what we have so far. I'm going to finish this up and do the nose, which is going to be exactly the same sort of principle. And then we will get back and do the elastic bands.